shaped Berkshires, and I'll let Alice describe that.
So Berkshires are our full-time currency now, issued in 2006. And some of you were probably in the session I talked about them earlier, but we have a nonprofit, democratically structured, place-based organization called Berkshires Incorporated that has issued Berkshires. And you can see that's kind of our region right there. It's the corner of Massachusetts, bordered by New York and Connecticut. And at the bank, you can get your Berkshires. So we work really closely with these 4 banks, which are all community banks: Lee Bank, Adams Community Bank, Salisbury Bank, and the Pittsfield Co-op. And that's where you can actually go with your dollars in hand and change them into Berkshires. So 95 cents will get you 1 Berkshire. And then you can go and spend them as if they were $1 at our participating businesses. So there are about 400 participating businesses. And having those banks involved has really been key, because it means that you can just go downtown and get your Berkshires, and the banks are open when banks are open. They're right on Main Street in all of our little towns. So we don't have to have exchange points that we have to take care of. The banks take care of it themselves, and they're already really good at doing that, and keeping the accounts. So we actually just get we have a checking account at each branch that participates. There are 16 branches of 4 banks, and we get a statement every month that tells us how many dollars have come in for how many Berkshires that have gone out. So we don't even have to do any of that accounting. So this is what Berkshires look like. They celebrate local heroes on the front of each bill. And so you can see a Stockbridge Mohican on the 1, W.E.B. Du Bois on the 5. They also incorporate elements that are very iconic for the Berkshires. So you can see that mountain range. We live in the Berkshire Hills of Massachusetts. So people who live there would recognize that mountain. And you can also see over on the left-hand side, it's a little cut off, but we've printed the values of our community right on the bills. And these were designed by John Isaacs. And you can see that they're intricate, but also kind of clean and beautiful. So they would be hard to reproduce, but they are very attractive, and they work well. So this is Robin Van En, who started the community-supported agriculture movement in the United States. She started Indian Line Farm. And Herman Melville. And then we have a 52. On the back of each bill, there's a painting by a local artist, so that we're celebrating all of the different sectors of our community, and things that we all recognize. There's our 50. So so then you can spend your Berkshires at any of the 400 businesses that participate as if they were dollars. So in effect right now, Berkshires are a discount for spending your money in locally owned businesses. 95 cents will get you 1 Berkshire of purchasing power, which is like $1. And so we're incentivizing people to spend their money in our locally owned businesses. All the businesses that have signed up to take Berkshires are locally owned. But yeah, you can see that there are lots of different kinds of businesses. So that's Sue Salou, who was able to start her goat cheese making business, Monterey Chev, because of a share loan in 1984, the first share loan. So that program that Susan talked about, the microcredit program, helped her to get her goat cheese making business off the ground. And 30 years later, she's taking Berkshires, and she's still super successful.
And I'll just add that she knew from the beginning that the goal was to issue a year-round currency. And when Berkshires was announced, Sue Salou called just in tears. She said, "You've done it. You've done it." She was thrilled to be a part of this longevity.
So you can see we have all different kinds of businesses. We have so retailers, that's a local bookshop. We have farmers. We have businesses that are producing locally. This is a ukulele manufacturer in Sheffield. There are service providers that take Berkshires. This is a power sports motorcycle shop. And so we have a very good diversity, and we're kind of training all of these people in spending their money locally as well. So it's not just about consumers spending their money in locally owned businesses, but it's incentivizing the businesses to go and look for local suppliers as well. Because if you take your Berkshires back to the bank, you would get only 95 cents per Berkshire.
So, in issuing Berkshires, we got a lot of graces coming our way. We also have had a lot of fun in doing it. I remember, again, when we first issued, one of my new favorite people, Mike, running across the lawn at a summer outing and saying, Susan, do you know Bjork? And I said, gee, no. And he said, her song, Declare Independence, you must hear it. So of course I went back and listened, and Bjork says, declare independence, make your own stamp, start your own currency, raise your flag, higher, declare independence. So I also just want to point out that the contract with the banks was very important because they had to make sure they met regulations. And they helped us work out the details of how the currency would actually go in and out of the bank. A local script could be a powerful tool to re-empower residents to finance out of nothing, out of future production, their local economy, choosing what they want to have there. But we've got some issues to work out, and that's what I'd like your input on. We have banks ready to make loans in Berkshires at our request. But how many do we put out? What's the backing? What are the next steps to a truly independent currency that Bob Swan was envisioning? I need your help. Oh, look!
Thank you very much, Susan. I'm really more than happy to see you once again here, especially here in Barcelona. Last time it was, I think, we saw for the first time in 2004 in Bard College, New York. And I'm very happy not only to see you, but also to show you what is happening here in Catalonia and other parts of Spain and even Europe. My question is that do you have some procedures to help your neighbors set up their own businesses? Well, I'd like to tell you what I saw in the Banco Palmas community in Fortaleza, Brazil. There on Wednesday evening, they had a weekly meeting where people gather and talk about local issues. But anyway, But by way of this kind of discussion, people sometimes say, "Oh, so then why don't we set up such a business?" Okay, and if you set up a new, let's say, sushi shop, I'm sure I'd go to your restaurant every week. And this kind of a commitment is also important. If we want to set up, if we want more business in the community, you need to help them by shopping or spending money there.
Let's take more questions. Yeah.
I think you have shown the solution at the beginning, because the first tickets you shown, it was a promise of production. Then you said it. You collect the promises of production and you issue as much money as your promises have. That's, I mean, you have shown the solution. The third slide.
And it's also on that one. There's the production.
Thank you. I would have one question and one suggestion. So, question is about the legal issues. I understand that the bank resolved everything for you, so you have no input to us, or perhaps you have, because I heard of currency attempts in the U.S. that were basically abolished by the government, and so. Is there any barrier that a simple statement that separates a legal issuance from the, let's say, one that is then forbidden by the bank?
No.
And suggestion as well. Okay, so
Local currency issue is legal, not by towns, but by individuals or corporations. It was never abolished in the U.S., so it's legal.
What about the greenbacks? Or, I mean, I heard about the guy who was issuing his own money. It was even backed with silver, but then he was, imprisoned almost.
Silver and gold backing is illegal.
Ah, okay. So that's the borderline.
Yeah, and
Okay.
no coinage.
Okay.